All right, everybody, what's going on? I hope you guys are having a good day. I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins from Your Black World, the Black Business School, and I want to welcome everybody to drboycetv.com. This is the home for intelligent Black people, and you guys know that we keep it Black, we keep it positive, we keep it productive, and we believe in the potential of our people to be great. Please shout out the city that you're from. Shout out your city. I'd like to know where you're coming from. I see Columbia, Missouri for Supreme Shaquem. Hey, what's going on? Sororia Simpkins from Lansing, Michigan. Mark is out of Central Florida. Danielle, Louisville, Kentucky. Nikisha, Kalamazoo, Michigan. Atlanta Creative from Hello Atlanta, or he says hello from Atlanta. Good to see Greensboro, North Carolina. I see Houston, Texas. Houston, Texas, the home of the All Black National Convention, which happens this weekend. Right there near the Hobby Airport. So you guys should come on out. It's going to be amazing. We're going to have a lot of great people there for you. If you want to learn more about that, go to allblacknationalconvention.com. That's allblacknationalconvention.com. Everybody watching on YouTube right now, please take 1 second right now. Hit the thumbs up button and hit that notification bell so you'll be notified whenever we go live. Hit the notification bell as well as the thumbs up button, and make sure you subscribe. So once you've done those things, give me a yes to let me know that you've done that. Let me know that you've hit the thumbs up button and the notification bell. And if you haven't subscribed, that you have subscribed. I see London, the Virgin Islands, Omaha, Nebraska. I see Tacoma, Washington, and a lot of other places. So let me jump into this very important discussion with a very important person. This individual he's going to be at the All Black National Convention this week. You all know him as Dr. George C. Fraser. He's the author of several books, including Success Runs in Our Race, which is a wildly popular bestseller that is required reading all around the globe. It's right up there with books like Powernomics and other books that I think you guys should read. You got to spend less time reading books that other people give you and start reading books that your own people give you. And so without further ado, I'd like to ask my friend, Dr. Fraser, how you doing today, sir?
I'm doing wonderful. Good to be back, man. And I'm excited about the conference. It's right around the corner. I've looked at some of the panel discussions, and man, you really put an incredible faculty together. Keep doing it, man. We need to be doing what you have put together for us. We need to be doing that kind of thing someplace every weekend in urban America. No question about it. So thank you for that.
Well, thank you for joining us. It means a lot to me that you're going to join us. And just so everybody knows, the All Black National Convention, it's just designed to be a very positive, productive place for Black people, positive, productive, and pro-Black. And what I mean by that is, the energy is very, very good. Everybody loves the fact that they're Black, and there's no shame in that at all. You also, we don't care if you're Democrat, Republican, tall, short, fat, thin, rich, poor. We don't care what your position is on feminism, LGBT, any of these other issues. If you put your people first, then that's what this convention is for. So I hope you guys will join us. You can go to allblacknationalconvention.com. It's not too late to passes. That's allblacknationalconvention.com. So let me, Dr. Fraser, let's jump into the conversation. I want you all to know, whenever I talk to this man before the camera comes on, he starts dropping so much knowledge that I want to hit the record button like right then, because just having casual conversations with you, Dr. Fraser, you'll just say things and I'll just be sitting there and I'll be hypnotized by it, and then I'll realize, wait a minute, Boyce, no. You're getting a one-man show right now. You're getting all this knowledge is being absorbed into my brain only, and no one else that should benefit from this. So I'll stop myself. I'll pop out of the trance and say, okay, let's start recording, because I want you to say repeat all that, because I think 50,000 people need to hear that as opposed to one. So you and I were talking about something. We didn't plan on discussing this, but you talked about music, and you were actually, in your perspective is different for those of us who are not, say, over the age of 50, right? You remember a time where the music was very different. And the music, we all know music is a part of our culture. Studies show that Black people are more influenced by entertainers than almost any other group. And you talked about how Black culture changed when the music changed. Can you speak to that, please?
Yeah, that's a deep subject. Oftentimes, and I'll probably say this this weekend at the All Black Conference, I often get questions from my audiences on Dr. Fraser. What are the 2 or 3 things that infected, affected, and effected the change in Black America over the last 50 years? In other words, over the last 50 years, we essentially have gone backwards, and we are at the bottom of every single economic statistic that matters in America. And I frame what I'm about to tell them because I don't want to be hated on after I tell them this. And I like to say to folks, I want to say this and still be loved, but you got to remember, I'm 74 years old. I have committed my entire life, time, talent, and treasure to Black people. I've given over 2,000 speeches, traveled 8.5 million frequent flyer miles, and I am for and about our people. I deeply believe that we must think race and culture first, but not only. We must think it first, but not only. And I say to folks that I grew up, I was born in 1945, so I'm 74, going on 75. And when I was growing up, I grew up with Malcolm X in one ear, Dr. King in the other ear, and Smokey Robinson and Marvin Gaye writing the lyrics for our music instead of Lil Wayne. Have you ever compared the lyrics of Marvin Gaye, What's Going On, to Lil Wayne? There is no comparison in the beauty and the substance of a Marvin Gaye lyric and a Smokey Robinson lyric as compared to, for example, Lil Wayne. Now, there's some fabulous rap music out here. We're going to put a pin in that. I'll pick up on that in a moment. Music is very important and very powerful to us because we learn differently. Black people learn differently than white folk. We're oral, visual, tactile, kinesthetic, and auditory learners, right? We're oral, visual, tactile, kinesthetic, and auditory learners. So music and all of the substance and history that goes into the words that make our music is one of the prime communication tools for Black people. It was used very effectively with humming and hymns, even during slavery. Secondly, rhythm is a part of our DNA. Whenever you hear drums, African drums, we almost cannot not move. Whenever you hear funk, we just automatically start moving. I was watching on social media not long ago, a little black baby, and they put on some funky music, and the baby was just moving to the rhythm, right? So music is very, very important to us. And so one of the answers to why have Black people gone backwards is that our music changed. When our music changed, we changed, right? Unfortunately, over the last 2 generations, there was incredibly powerful rap, positive rap, infectious and productive and aspirational and inspiring rap, the Roots, and there's Kendrick Lamar. We can name those who have evolved the whole concept of rap. But in the earlier stages, now I'm not talking Tupac, I'm talking about slightly after Tupac, because Tupac was a poet and was truly talking about the abhorrent conditions in the hood. Very powerful. That morphed into sort of a gangster rap where the lyrics of that rap were things that reinforced stereotypes, the thug life, and you know the messages. I don't want to repeat them. And it was fundamentally denigrating our people. I mean, we are the only ones singing songs about our people that reinforce negative stereotypes of our people. When we start calling ourselves niggas, bitches, and hoes, there is no other culture on the planet that does that but us, right? You don't hear Jews calling each other kikes and their women bitches. You don't hear it from any cultural group, Asians, East Indians, Arabs. No one denigrates their own people to a infectious rhythm where we're nodding our head, we're going with the beat, and the stuff is pumping into our brain. I was on a flight. This was about 6 months ago. I'm in first class. I'm reading a book. There's a brother sitting next to me, young brother. He was millennial, and he had his headphones on, and he was listening to his music list. Now, of course, we played the music so loud, I could hear what he was playing, right? While I'm trying to read. And I don't even want to begin to tell you what he was sitting there. We were going to California for 4 hours listening to this stuff that did nothing but spoke of us as less than human beings, right? For 4 hours, he's sitting there nodding his head, and this music is pumping into his brain. You cannot tell me a couple of generations of that kind of music being pumped into your brain does not infect your thinking. So we began to change when our music changed. That's one thing. The second thing is an addiction. We have two great addictions that we must fix. The first addiction is we are addicted to instant gratification versus delayed gratification. We want ours now. And we want the stuff that gives us the imagery of being all that and a bag of chips. I say it a little bit differently when I speak. I say, the goal is to win, not to look like we're winning. I would rather carry a plastic bag with $5,000 in it than to carry a $5,000 Louis Vuitton bag with $100 in it. That's looking like you're winning. That's not really winning. We buy what we want and not necessarily are totally invested in what we need. We need to be reading. We're not reading. We need to be reading. Leaders are readers. We get our information vicariously. We get it over social media. We get it through songs. Not enough of us are intellectually curious enough to have a part of their regular diet reading. Reading. That's like exercising the mind. When you read and you focus and you comprehend what you're reading, you're exercising the brain. By the way, you're getting rid of some of the plaque that could potentially build up on the brain that causes what? Alzheimer's. You got to use the mind, and you just don't use it through observation and auditory, right? You've got to read and you've got to focus. So that is a very, very bad habit that we're going to have to fix. 3 years ago at the Power Networking Conference, I had unfolded and unveiled what I call our frog card. And if your audience looks at this, you'll see that there's a little frog right at the top. That's why we call it a frog card. There's a little frog right at the top, and it's sitting in a bowl of boiling water. And this is science. Science tells us if you take a frog and put it in a pot of boiling water, it would immediately jump out. If you take that same frog and you put it in a bowl of cool water and slightly heat the water incrementally over time, each incremental measurement of heat, the frog will adjust to it, get comfortable in it, then you can turn it up a little bit more. They will adjust to it, get comfortable to it, turn it up a little bit more, they will continue to adjust. Eventually the water will begin boiling, and the frog, who had become so comfortable and adjusted, will essentially sit there and be boiled to death. This is a scientific fact. This is not something I'm making up. It's called the boiling frog syndrome. And this is a metaphor, as far as I'm concerned, for the state of Black America, right? That we are in this bowl, and we are adjusting to the heat. And if we don't do something drastic, something bold, something different, we are going to work our way into a second slavery. All the economic projections and all the economic statistics actually predict that by 2053, if nothing changes among Black folk in America, that's, by the way, 20 years after the majority becomes the minority in this country. By 2053, there will be zero Black median wealth. All right. So we have to do something. So in putting together this little frog card, I wanted to put a whole agenda on things that we can do. The way I say, our mindset equals our consciousness. That's what it says right at the top of the little card, right? All right. And there are 5 new mindsets that we have to adapt, and there are 3 new habits that we have to adapt to mitigate or to eliminate some of the bad habits that we had. And I wanted to do the whole thing on the size of a card so that you can keep it in your wallet. I keep this card in my wallet. Goes right there with my business cards so that I can refer to it very easily just to keep me on track, right? So on this card are the 5 key mindsets, and on this card on the other side are the 3 habits. And then there's what I call on the bottom of the card, the LTQ, the litmus test question that all Black people should be asking themselves with anything of any significance that they're getting ready to do. This is the LTQ. And the question as it reads from the card is what I'm about to do good for my people. Now, I know it may be good for you, but is it good for your people? You ask that question in the quiet of your own mind. You don't have to announce it, but it is a litmus test. It's something to measure your actions so that they, in fact, can have some impact on something or someone greater than yourself. That is the litmus test question. The bottom line of the entire 5 new mindsets and 3 habits, and you've heard me say this before, is for Black people to move into a consciousness of learning, earning, and returning. We got a lot of us earning, a lot of us learning, but not enough of us are returning. Therein lies the problem. If more of us returned with the knowledge and the resources that we have, there would be a lot less conversation about where we are and where we need to go. So I'm going to quickly review, because this is basically a full day workshop that we do at the Power Networking Conference on the 5 key mindsets and the 3 important habits that we have to adapt. Now, some of these things are controversial. Some of these things are outside of the box. A couple of these things no one has ever thought of, but we need to think of. So let me begin very quickly. First mindset, Black people need a narrower cultural vision. We need a narrower cultural vision. We must focus on making Black people great first. We must circle the wagons, all hands on deck, and focus on Black excellence, which has got to become the new gangster. In fact, that's how we're redefining it, Boyce, at Fraser Nation. We're redefining gangster not to mean thug life, but to mean Black excellence. So when I say to you, Boyce Watkins, gangster baby, gangster, I'm saying you did something that was extraordinary. The Black Business School is gangster. It's excellence personified, right? So you are focusing on, and you called it, what did you call it? The Black Business School. You didn't just call it the business school, right? You're focusing your time, talent, and treasure. You're aggregating some of the best people with the best knowledge to contribute to the online subject matter, and you're focusing on Black business excellence. That's a model of what I'm talking about. So we need a narrower cultural vision, all hands on deck, where we focus on making Black people great first. All right. How do we do that? We create work and jobs for our people, and then we coach them, train them, and give them skills, making Black people great first. So a narrow cultural vision is number one. Number two, this is a tough one, but it's got to be said. We must develop within our culture a system of socially isolating and ostracizing those Black folks of means that do not give back to their own community. We have no system of social ostracization and isolation in our culture. If you are a Jewish person of means and you do not give back to Jewish causes and Jewish community and to Israel, you are socially isolated and ostracized. You are out. You could be a billionaire in the Black community, write a $40 million check to USC, don't give one penny to an HBCU. And if you showed up at a Black church, not only would you sit in the front row, you would probably still sit on the platform. Mm-hmm. We are very forgiving people, very loving people. I'm not hating on that. That's powerful and that's important. But at the same time, we must recognize publicly those who do not do the right thing by their own people, and they're in a position to do so. This is why, was it Robert Smith, who put in $40 million to pay off the student debt of the 400 graduates of Morehouse. I mean, that made national, global headlines. Mm-hmm. It's a brother who's a billionaire. Not only that, he extended it just a couple of weeks ago and making an investment in the parents of those children. So we lift him up. This is the right kind of behavior. And it's not that we are not without resources. There are literally thousands of brothers and sisters doing well in the entertainment space, some doing well in the business space, right? Some doing it well, very well in the sports space. Magic Johnson would be a wonderful model of an athlete that has made millions, that has created thousands of jobs for Black people, and have done the right thing with his sports earnings. So,
let me jump in. I want to hear the rest of the list. I just want to add to your point there.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you think about this, and many people have cited this, and I'm gonna keep saying it until people start hearing it. The 1.3 trillion a year in income that we have, if we were a country, we'd be the 15th richest country on the planet.
That's right.
This narrative that Black people are too poor to take care of Black people is absolute BS. And it's insane that somebody tricked us into thinking that we're broke when everyone's getting rich off of our money. Everyone's living off of the income that we provide to them, because out of that 1.3 trillion, 90+% of that money is going out of our community. We're donating over $1 trillion a year to other people's businesses and other people's, projects. And not a fraction of that is coming to ourselves. So, there's a boycott against Black-owned businesses, and we're part of that boycott. We're boycotting them too. And in fact, if you think about this, Dr. Fraser, and I'm going to be quiet. I'm a student today. I'm going to zip it up and listen, but I want to throw in that little.
No, this is good. This is good. Please.
HBCUs. You think about this, right? And you were talking about Dr. Dre a second ago. He's a billionaire, gave $40 million to USC. USC doesn't need the money. They spend that amount of money in less than a month. So it does make a difference. That same amount would be transformational for almost every HBCU in America. In fact, there has not since Bill and Camille Cosby in the 80s, there's not been any African American that's given a gift anywhere in that range to any HBCU ever, right? Like Cosby and Camille, again, say what you want about, people say what they want about Cosby and his mistakes, but that 20 million that they gave to Spelman in the 1980s, that translates to $40 million today. So he's the only one, him and Camille, God bless her, for everything they've gone through as a family. But he and Camille were the only ones that were gangster enough, to use your terminology, to really come in and really make a move to really solve the problem. I mean, to this day, you'll hear celebrities with, they have $1 billion in the bank say, oh, well, I gave $100,000 to HBCUs. That's
Right.
nice. We appreciate that. But where's the rest of that money going? That same person will go and tell you that they bought a $5 million European car. But you're giving scraps to your community for
Right.
important purposes, and you're giving the bulk of your wealth to another community for things that don't actually matter. Because you bought a $5 million car and it's your 12th car, right? Like, I mean, we got to think about the sheer ridiculousness,
Right,
of
right.
that. And the last thing I'll throw in there to add to that point, and then I'm going to zip it up.
No, this is good. This is good. That's right. Unpack it, man.
I'm just co-signing completely on what you said. Think about this. I want everybody watching, please process this for a moment. 1.3 trillion in income that we have as a community. Let's say about 1.2 trillion of that 1.3 trillion goes to other communities. Let's say that we took back just 10% of all the money we give away. Let's say we redirected just 10% of those black dollars. That's $120 billion coming back into the communities. That's thousands of jobs. That's thousands of millionaires. That's a few billionaires you could create with that kind of income.
We could solve our own unemployment problem. Basically, we can if we recycled our dollars properly.
Exactly, and if you think about that, just 10% of that 10%, meaning if we redirected just 1% of all the money that we give to other communities, that 1%, about $12 billion, would be enough to shore up the endowments of our top 20 or top 30 HBCUs. Literally, I mean, this is the craziness of the math. If we took 1% of all the money that we donate to other communities and targeted that specifically to our HBCUs, their financial problems would be gone for the next 10, 20 years. So Dr. Fraser, please continue. I had to throw that in there because I love your point, but please.
Yeah, right. So remember, everybody, write it down. What's a first mindset, a narrow cultural vision, focus on making Black people great first. Number two, socially isolate and ostracize those of us in our community that have significant means that do not give back to their own people. There's an easy way to do it, social media. And by the way, social media got all over Dr. Dre. And recently, you probably read, Dr. Watkins, Dr. Dre, I think he gave 10 million to HBCUs. Just recently.
Oh,
but yeah, he gave 10 million. You can Google it. He gave 10 million. I think it was 10 million. I think we want to look at that. I know he gave a chunk of change to HBCUs, but that's because he was beat up on, right? And people dogged him out about that. That's the social ostracization and isolation that we have to continue to perform. And we can use social media today. It's a lot easier to do, right? And for some of our brothers and sisters to do the right thing. All right, so that's number two. Number three.
I'll just say, as Dr. Fraser, I'm Googling it. I didn't see anything about the donation. So if anybody has a link to that, please share it.
Yes.
We want to be fair. We want to be fair to Dre. I don't want to beat up on him for nothing, but
that's right.
But I'm glad you brought that up. But please continue, sir. Go ahead.
Yeah. So have somebody out there Google it. There is some number that he gave, so that's a good thing, and he ultimately did the right thing. Now, number three is, this is again a tough one. We must coalesce around our vision and not just our pain. Let me say that again. We must coalesce around our vision for Black people: economic development, wealth creation, closing the income and wealth gap, right? Financial literacy, and not just our pain. Anytime somebody puts a gun to another brother's head and blow his brains out, tens of thousands of us will come out, picket and march. That's the right thing to do. Protest, saber rattle, right? When something bad happens, we are all up in there. We will march on Washington when we're trying to get. Now, I'm not saying we shouldn't be doing these things. Yes, we should. But when a Boyce, Watkins, and a myriad of others, Dr. George Fraser, are talking about economic development, wealth creation, right? Talking about the lack of investment by major companies who significant percentages of their bottom line refuse to invest in the things that are important to us, and we don't say anything about it, right? We need to coalesce around our vision for Black people, which is closing the income and wealth gap, as well as whatever the social ills are, not just the things that painfully happen to us. We must demonstrate for economic parity. We must demonstrate for closing the wealth gap. We must make as much noise and be as loud and have as many programs and as much discussion about that as we do on our social ills, right? Now, we're moving in the right direction because we are coalescing now around what? Reparations. That's an economic, very economic remedy, important economic remedy that will help move the needle. All right, so coalesce around our vision and not just our pain. Number 4, we have to connect the dots so that we can leverage more effectively our collective resources. I've given 1,000 speeches on that. You can go on YouTube and see videos that I did at the State of Black America and any number. So that is it. As you pointed out, we are a $1.3 trillion annual economy. If we were a nation, we would be the 15th richest nation in the entire world. Several years ago, I did a major computation and calculation on the intellectual capital base in Black America. And just from baby boomers alone, we have over 500 billion hours of formal education and professional training. If you wanted to put a dollar value on that, it's just $10 an hour, right? And try to get professional training or education for $10 an hour. That would mean that our collective intellectual capital base from one generation alone is worth in excess of $5 trillion, right? So we have brain power. Thirdly, 60% of Black employed people, 60% of us are in educational, professional, entrepreneurial, or business ownership positions. 60% of us are, in a sense, gainfully employed, right? Gainfully employed. That is an army of potential role models and mentors to help those who are stuck in the cycle of poverty. In fact, there is no army in the entire world larger than the army of Black people that have, quote, succeeded. That's a relative success in this country, right? So, or in the world, actually. So we have people power, we have human capital, we have intellectual capital, we have financial capital. So let me say that differently. God has given Black people every single thing they need to succeed. We have every single thing we need to succeed except each other. Jews have each other. East Indians have each other. Arabs have each other. Asians have each other. We don't have each other. So the moment we begin to connect the dots, to leverage more effectively our collective resources and intellectual capital, and understand that it is easy to break a finger, it is hard to break a fist. The strength is not in the wolf. The strength is in the pack. And once we get that concept, that mindset in our mind as Jews, right? Jews are tribal. God bless them, they're tribal. And I mean that in a good way. It is about Jews first. It's about their community. It's about recycling dollars. It's about doing business with Jews first, right? So long as all things are equal. Right, the tiebreaker, and I learned this from Jewish people. They don't do business with you only because you're Jewish. They do business with you, all things being equal, right? Quality, value, and service. Now, all things being equal, the tiebreaker is I'm a Jew, you're a Jew, you get the business. That's the tiebreaker. All things are equal. So we're not saying to Black people, support Black people or Black businesses who are substandard, who are 500% overpriced. We're saying that we need to meet standards as well. We also need to understand we have to pay a tax, right? We have to pay perhaps sometimes a little more. But the tiebreaker of us making a decision about who we do business with is all things being equal, and the tiebreaker is I'm Black, you're Black, you get the business. You have the first option, right? So we've got to connect the dots. We've got to understand the power and importance of the relationships in our lives. We've got to understand the networks that we have to build. Every one of us through every passage in life has to build 3 networks, and have to work on those 3 networks for every passage of their life. We get 8 passages. Each passage is about 10 years. Let me say that differently. You're a different person at 10 years old than you were at 1. You're a different person at 20 than you were at 10. Let us pray. You're a different person at 30 than you were at 20, 40 than 30, 50 than 40, 60 than 50, 70 than 60, 80 than 70. We're constantly evolving, changing, and growing. So we have 8 passages in life. There are 3 networks you've got to work on to connect the dots effectively in your life. First is your personal network. These are the people who are your close circle, who are your close circle of friends. They know you, love you, lift you up, and cheer you on, right? Let's call that your network at home. The second network you have to work on throughout your entire life is your operational network. These are the people that help you to get specific tasks done in life. Whether it is the place of business in which you're employed or work at, whether you're a deacon on a deacon board or you're a part of some organization, there are people that you will interact with that help you to get that specific task done in your life at that time, and you help them. That's an operational network. And those people platoon in and out of your life. There are very few people that you have, Dr. Boyce, in your life for all 80 years of your life. You can count them probably on a couple of hands, other than, your brothers or sisters or your close extended family or your significant other. So that is your operational network. And the third and final network is your strategic network. These are the people that are smarter than you. These are the people that will drag you into the 21st century kicking, screaming, and crying. These are the people that are where you want to be in life. These are the people that can be your mentors and coaches. You don't want to be the smartest person in your network. If you're the smartest person in your network, you're in the wrong damn network, because you can't grow. Who's reaching down and lifting up and teaching and guiding and mentoring and coaching you? So you want to operate 3 simultaneous networks, cultivate, nurture, and build those networks so that you can effectively connect the dots, leverage your resources and collective resources and intellectual capital. And you do it through a community-based, tribal-based mindset. Connect the dots. The final mindset is to think entrepreneurially. Black people in this country are the merchant class. I'm sorry, the consumption class. We are the consumer class in this country. White folks are the merchant class. We are the consumption class. They are the merchant class. White folks make stuff. We buy stuff. All right? We came over here on the Mayflower, and we're the world's first people. And we own the fewest number of businesses per capita of any cultural group in this country. That was significantly impacted by the mantra of my generation as a baby boomer. My parents taught their 11 children to get a good education and to get a good job. That was the mantra. That was what was going on in my generation. Get a good education and get a good job. Now, that was the right mantra at that time. Because when they were coming up in the early 1900s, they couldn't get a good education and get a good job. So that's what they wanted for their children. And that's what they taught their children. And that's what we did. So 96, 97% of Black people have what? Jobs. We have to shift that thinking. That's not what I've taught my 2 sons. I've taught my 2 sons to get a good education and create a job. Create a job for yourself. To create a job for your children. And if God gives you the power and the glory, create work and jobs for our people. Why must we create work and jobs for our people? Why must we become the #1 employer of our own people? Because by creating work and jobs for your own people, you know that is the only way to raise up the poor. That's how you do it. Do you realize that Asians in America solve their own unemployment problem by opening small Asian restaurants in the Black community? And that alone has created 1.5 million jobs for Asians. In fact, I tell Black folks all the time, if you go into an Asian restaurant and there are 4 brothers waiting on you, leave. That's not a real Asian restaurant. Asians don't employ Black people. They employ Asian people. And you can't hate on them for that, because that's what we ought to be doing. Right? So these are the things. We have to begin thinking entrepreneurially. We have to have a narrow cultural vision, We must socially isolate and ostracize those brothers and sisters of means that do not give back. We have to coalesce around our vision and not just our pain. We've got to march for economic development. We've got to march for reparations, right? We've got to march for those things that impact us politically, socially, and civically as it relates to the economic base and the economic enrichment of our culture and our people and our community. We've got to begin thinking tribally in a positive way, focus on education and training, and finally, focus on economics. Now, let me announce something to you, in case no one ever told you. I told you three things. We've got to think tribally, focus on education, and focus on economics. Guess what? That's a Jewish agenda. That's a Jewish agenda. That's exactly what our Jewish brothers and sisters focus on. They focus on their community, their people first, sort of tribal kind of thinking. They focus on education. More Jews have won Nobel Prizes in the sciences than all people who have won Nobel Prizes combined. They're brilliant people. And finally, I don't have to tell you about the wealth of Jewish people. There are only 15 million Jews in America. Well, no, and not in America, in the world. There are only 15 million Jews in the world. But of the $400 trillion of global wealth, they control the most significant percentage of that. And the average household income for Jews globally is the highest in the entire world. And there are only 15 million of them. There are 1.3 billion Black folk. We control less than 0.1% of the global wealth in this country, and we're God's first people, and we occupy and basically own the richest continent in natural resources in the entire world. Something has to change. We have to change. So we have to think entrepreneurially. Now, let me just clear up something on this. By no means should all Black people open a business. Wrong. I know some Black people that should not be within 100 yards of owning a business. You've met them. We call them at Fraser Nation business people, right? And the goal of Fraser Nation is to put the business people out of business because they're messing it up for those of us that are trying to do serious business. That's A. And B, Dr. Watkins, we need educated and professionally trained brothers and sisters who are tactically and strategically positioned in the public and private sector workplace so that we are at the table, because if Black people are not at the table accessing the resources of companies and corporations and institutions that we contribute significantly to their bottom line, white folks are not thinking about us. White people don't get around the conference table in the morning and say, what are we going to do for Black people? They have that conversation when Black people are present, and Black people are putting conscious pressure on them to think diversity and inclusion. So we need Black people everywhere. We certainly need more Black people opening businesses. No question about that. So those are the 5 mindsets that will change us forever. Now, let me get into the 3 habits. How much time do we have?
As much time as you want. Everybody who's watching, please tell Dr. Fraser he can talk as long as he wants to talk. Cheer this brother on, because I'm just sitting here. You guys don't hear me this silent most of the time, but I'm being silent because I know when to, as my daddy used to say, I know when to shut the fuck up. So I am quiet. I'm going to let Dr. Fraser continue. I'd only ask everybody, number one, if you just came in, I'm speaking with Dr. George C. Fraser. He's the author of the book, Success Runs in Our Race. He is the power networking guru of the United States. If you haven't become impressed with him with the time that you've been here, you really need to look him up. Also, please hit the thumbs up button, hit that notification bell if you're on YouTube so you'll be notified when we go live. As you know, we keep it intelligent, we keep it strong and Black here. And this is unlike any other outlet that you're going to see anywhere. So we hope you'll subscribe, and we hope you appreciate what we're bringing. Last but not least, Dr. Fraser will be at the All Black National Convention. So if you are thinking about coming to Houston, don't think about it no more. Just get your ticket and come on in. I guarantee you're going to love it. The reason I can say I guarantee it is because if you don't love it, we'll give you a refund, right? So just come on in. You're going to love it. And if you can't make the convention, you can go watch the live stream. You can subscribe to our digital educational platform at allblackeducation.com. That's allblackeducation.com. Those who subscribe can watch the live stream. So feel free to do that as well. So Dr. Fraser, the floor is all yours.
All right. I went back to my library, my office. For those of you who are watching, you see there are about 1,000 books. This is just my office library. The library I have at home is 10 times this size. This is just what I have available to me in my office. All right, this is why I'm reading it. So now we're going to talk about the 3 most important habits that we can engage in the 21st century. Now, habit defined. Let's just define what a habit is. According to the dictionary, it is an acquired behavior pattern regularly followed until it becomes almost involuntary. I was very interested in how does a community develop good habits. There's a wonderful book I want to recommend, if you haven't read it, called The Power of Habit. The Power of Habit. Charles Duhigg. You can pick it up in the airport. One of the most important and best books that I've ever read on how to develop great habits, how to break bad habits, and how to develop new habits. The book is good. One of the reasons I think it's good is because there's a wonderful story about Dr. Martin Luther King in here and the habit that he had to break. The brothers and sisters that lived in Montgomery, Alabama, to get them to fully function effectively for the Montgomery bus boycott. That Black folk had a habit of every day taking these buses to work, right, to get to wherever they were going. And in order to have an effective boycott, he had to break them of that habit and develop new systems within that community to get them to where they needed to go, right? So they talk about in this book how Dr. King, the methodology that Dr. King used, one, to understand the habit and to understand the equation and the algorithm of the habit, and then what to do to break it. All right, so if you want to break bad habits and you want to establish new habits, this is a wonderful read. All right, so what is the first habit that's on the frog card here? So now that's on the back of the card. The 3 habits are right here, okay? The first habit is that we must have, as a people, an insatiable appetite for personal growth and development. An insatiable appetite for personal growth and development. So let me say the next thing and still beloved. I'm at 74 years old, I'm at the top of my game. I'm one of the best in the areas of what is being said and what is being done based on what I'm saying. I'm at the top of the heap. I'm not bragging, I'm just saying. It's not bragging if you're actually doing it. Last year, I spent $13,000 on personal growth and development. Conferences, CDs, books, workshops, seminars. And I'm already at the top of the game, and I'm 74 years old, and I'm still investing 2% of my income on my personal growth and development, and I'm already awesome at it. But you can never stop learning. So my question to my brothers and sisters is, how much of your annual income this year have you spent on personal growth and development, lifelong learning, and constant never-ending improvement? How much have you spent? How much have you spent going to conferences? Are you coming to Dr. Boyce Watkins conference? Right? That might cost you, when all said and done, if you don't live in Houston, it may cost you $1,000, right? Registration, some hotel room, right? food or whatever. So, but it's worth it. How much are you spending on developing your mind? And I don't care what stage you are in your life. Are you investing in your mind? An insatiable appetite for personal growth and development, driven by the need for constant, never-ending improvement and lifelong learning. This is actualized, this is all on the card, by a greater knowledge of self to build esteem and Black self-respect, less entertainment, all right? So I'm going to unpack less entertainment. This is another, I said we had two very bad habits. I talked about one, our addiction to instant gratification versus delayed gratification. I'm now going to talk about the second one. A.C. Nielsen did a major study 3 years ago on the television viewing habits by cultural group in America. The research shows that Black folk watch 40% more television than anybody on the planet. We watch a total of 72 hours of television a week. Any Negro watching 72 hours of television a week needs their Black ass kicked. When you're watching 10 hours of television a day, you're subjected, or 72 hours a week, to about 1,500 what? Commercials. Watch 1,500 commercials and see if it doesn't turn you into what? A consumption machine. Mm-hmm. That's why we are the consumption class and they are the merchant class. We are programmed to consume. What is the stuff that we watch on television called, brothers and sisters? It's called programming. 72 hours of television a week.
And let me add to that, Dr. Fraser. I remember reading the science that says that Professor Ken Sapolsky at Stanford University was one of the people that I really enjoyed listening to understand, the human brain, the reptilian brain, and just how we evolve as people and what separates us from animals. Because we have a lot of similar instincts to other mammals. There are a lot of things that we do that they do. But we have, so basically what he said is that 95% of your brain operates just like an animal. A lot of the things animals want, food, sex, anger, jealousy, all these things, territorialism, all that is in us, just like it is, it's in an elephant or a walrus or whatever. But we have this little piece that's evolved over the last, maybe 100,000 years or so, called, from what I understand, the prefrontal cortex. Now, I'm not a brain scientist, but this is what I've read. And the prefrontal cortex separates you from the animals, right? You're not operating solely on instinct, right? Or as they call the id, the part of your brain that just wants to eat and eat. You see some fatty food, you want to eat it because it tastes good. You see a pretty lady, you want to sleep with her. You get mad at a guy, you want to kill him, right? But you have a part of you that says, no, I can't kill that person because I'll go to jail and it's wrong. Or I shouldn't eat that food because I'm on a diet, or or I shouldn't sleep with that woman because I'm married, right? So that prefrontal cortex allows you to operate above the instinct of an animal. Now, why is that important? Well, the reason it's important is because when you're consuming tons of television, they've proven that what that does is that erodes the ability of the prefrontal cortex to allow you to engage in logical, strategic, critical thinking. And so effectively what it does, in my opinion, is this consistent consumption of television and hypnotic music that reminds you to act like an animal, that just takes the worst stereotypes imaginable and drills them into your subconscious. You're being reduced from a human being to an animal, right? Mm-hmm. So for example, if you pay attention, if you listen to, I listen to brothers who, maybe they're buried under a bunch of child support and they can't pay their child support because they got, 10 kids with 8 women and all this, money's going out of their pocket. And I'll sort of ask them, what happened? Like, why did you choose to put yourself in this situation? And they'll always say, well, I didn't choose it, right? Things happen. And what you'll find if you rewind the clock is that there was an intense lack of strategic thinking, like critical thinking, to say, there are consequences. If I do A, then that will lead to B, which will lead to C. I don't want to do that. So they spend their lives living playing checkers and not chess. And that's what animals do. Animals play checkers, not chess. If a dog sees a pretty female dog, he's going to sleep with her. He's not thinking about child support and the long-term consequences. Or if you give a dog 7 days worth of food, he's not going to ration the food out over 7 days. He's going to eat 7 days worth of food and starve the next 6 days. And what I see a lot of times, and this is encouraged through media, music, and culture right now in our communities, you have a lot of people that will make very bad decisions short term because of the short term gratification you talk about, because of bad habits, and then suffer long term, and literally, unfortunately, will have no idea how they ended up in that situation. And I'm going to say that I'm going to be quiet because I want you to continue, but you're the teacher here. But I remember
this is good, man. This is good. I
remember being in college and critically sort of looking at my brothers, other Black men around me. And I remember thinking to myself, I said, y'all not studying. If you don't study, the white man's going to kick you in your ass. You ain't going to have no job. You won't be able to support your kids. You're going to be the biggest bitch on the block because you're going to be a worthless father because you didn't plan ahead, So I remember thinking that. And so you see the consequences kind of come up. And I really think that there's something there in terms of these bad habits being encouraged, sort of drilled into our culture. And it ties back to what you were talking about, the continuous consumption of media and entertainment and television that teaches us to embrace instant gratification. And really, I would say that one of the keys to failure, if you ever want to really fail, everybody, if you ever want to be the biggest loser on the earth, if you ever want your life to just be a complete bowl of shit, then go through your life constantly seeking instant gratification. If you do that, then you will fail at everything, including parenting, education, economically, whatever. And the last point I'll make on that, Dr. Fraser, in terms of what you were saying earlier about
That's good.
It being infused into the culture. I remember listening to a rapper in a song, and there was one part of the song where he literally said, there's two songs I'm thinking about. One was, it was about money. And the rapper was saying, the chorus was, I'm riding around and I'm getting it. I'm riding around and I'm getting it. I'm riding around and I'm getting it. It's mine, I spend it. It's mine, I spend it. So he's basically saying you get money, you spend it. That's it.
That's right.
Where I remember hearing the rapper say something like, we live for today, F tomorrow. Right?
That's right.
So we're living for today, instant gratification. Who cares about tomorrow? Right. And then your life sort of comes back, and the universe always punishes you for not thinking ahead. And then you wonder, why am I oppressed? Woe is me. Well, sometimes, the biggest white supremacists in America are Black people. Sometimes we participate directly in our own oppression and then act like somebody else did it. So that's all I got to say, Dr. Fraser. Please continue.
No, that's good. That's good, man. Thank you for that. Intellectual curiosity and reasoning are seeded and developed in the prefrontal cortex. And if you don't develop that, it diminishes the things that you're curious about. Your reasoning and your logic isn't what it needs to be. And your ability to attain the subject matter expertise necessary to have a skill that will pay you a living wage and better is thwarted significantly. I think one of the keys to being successful today is that you have to be an inch wide and a mile deep in your subject matter expertise. And then you have to be a mile wide and an inch deep in matters of the world, so that you can talk about something other than the weather and sports, so that you're interesting, right? That's how you cultivate, nurture, and build relationships. That's how you get ladies. That's how you get men, right? People ask me, what are you? Well, I'm a sapiosexual person, right? What's a sapiosexual person? I'm really turned on by intelligence, right? That to me is like, whoa, that is one intelligent sister, and she's fine too. But intelligent first. Now I've had my share of fine, no brains, right? That don't last long. I'm just telling you out here, bro, that won't last long, right? You want intelligence. You want someone that you can have a meaningful conversation, someone that is logical, someone has the ability to reason, someone that is well read and hopefully well spoken and well written. That to me is sexy. Right. And I think, by the way, and I think most sisters would say this, I think that's what's sexy to most sisters is an intelligent man. Right. So you could look like all of this, but if you open up your mouth and nothing's coming out, right, that ain't gonna last long. Right. There may be some carnal pleasure for a minute, but it's just a minute. You ain't gonna build nothing. And I said this at a talk I gave the other day. If you can't build with them, don't chill with them. Right? Like shit. If you can't build with them, don't chill with them. You can't build something? Why are you wasting your time? Right? And I think this is a problem that a lot of sisters are having today. Right? Is finding brothers that they can build with, that have some intellectual curiosity. Right? So that's really what we're talking about when we talk about an insatiable appetite for personal growth and development, lifelong learning, and constant never-ending improvement, right? If you habitualize that, it is almost impossible to fail. What's the second habit? A burning desire, and again, I'm reading it from the card, a burning desire to be obedient to seeking the answer to this question. What does God want from me instead of what do I want from life? And the personal discipline to do the work, to pay the price, and to stay the course. Okay? So what do we need? We need to habitualize discipline and obedience. Discipline and obedience, right? So the ability to chart a course, to stay that course, then all that is due you will come to you. Why? Because what does that mean? It means that when you chart a course, you essentially want to do the right thing, whatever that course may be. But we know that everything that is good is not right for you. So we chart a good and righteous course. That's what we want to do. But everything that is good is not right for you. You've got to make a decision about that. Then you stay that course, and then all that is due you will come to you. So you have to be disciplined and you have to be obedient, minimally obedient to you. Hopefully you will be obedient to others and things bigger than you, but minimally to you. Once you decide, you decide. You focus, right? You drill down, you stick with it until you ultimately decide, this really isn't for me. I've drilled down, I've put enough into this that this doesn't really float my boat. I'm not really excited and passionate about this. And I maybe I want to try something. There's something else. There's nothing wrong with that either. But once you land, once you're excited and passionate about what you're doing, you've got to be disciplined, obedient, and you've got to focus on it, and you've got to stick with it, and you've got to do the work. So a burning desire to be obedient, to seeking the answer to this question, what does God want from me instead of what do I want from life? And then the personal discipline to do the work, to pay the price, and to stay the course. That's the second.
You're talking about, so it sounds to me like you're talking about commitment to purpose, that, you know,
that's right. That's right.
Purpose, then
that's right. Right. That's 3 words. You said it. You summed it all up in 3 words: commitment to purpose.
Yeah, COP or no CTP. Yeah, well, I always like acronyms, but I agree with you. You know, when I think about purpose, and I think about when I found my purpose, and I decided that it was all based on love, right? When I decided that that I loved this guy, named Boyce Watkins, and that he's okay, that sort of living a double life, pretending, to be somebody else in order to fit in was a losing strategy, because at best I'd just be an imitation of something that was already out there. I remember, I began to love this guy and accept him despite his many flaws. Also, that led to a connection to purpose. Like, so what is the purpose? What am I here for? And then being committed to that, right? And sort of saying, almost like a football game, you pick a certain offensive style, you're committed to that. You got to run it with precision. You stay with it because that's what you chose. And so it reminds me maybe a little bit of marriage as well. What did it say? For richer, for poorer, and sickness and health, till death do you part. And that's what happened, I think, when I became a free Black man and committed to my purpose, committed to who I felt that God in the universe wanted me to be. It's like, okay, that means you ride or die. That is who you are, period. That's what you do. That is what you're going to be. And the thing is, you have to, I think, start there, because you're going to have those storms, that are going to lead you to question. You're going to have people in your ear telling you, maybe you shouldn't have done this and shouldn't have done that. Again, just like a relationship,
Right. That's right. Absolutely.
Down. So I like that a lot. I think that commitment to purpose, that discipline piece, I found that to be absolutely critical. Because I believe most people in life do not know who they are. They do not know why they're here. And if you are that person, if you're that son of a bitch who's lucky enough to know who you are and know why you're here and know exactly where you're going,
that's right.
Most people will get out of your way, because most people are just following the crowd. Go ahead.
That's right. You got an amen. You got an amen from me on that. I think that it is almost impossible, Dr. Watkins, to have the energy that you will need, the fire, if you will, that you will need, that needs to burn bright and hot, without understanding your purpose. I think it is through purpose that you get turned on, that you could work 15 hours a day, that the fires are burning hot, that the purpose gives you energy. And you need energy. Anything needs energy to cook or to become whole, right? So purpose gives us energy. That's why it's so much written about it, so much is talked about, right? There's power in purpose, because it gives you the energy that you need to stay the course. All right. So the third and final habit: an aggressive, never-ending personal and group focus on equity and ownership. An aggressive, never-ending personal and group focus on equity and ownership instead of consumerism and consumption, actualized through strategic alliances, joint ventures, partnerships, via connecting the dots and recycling our dollars, right? That's the habit: aggressive, never-ending personal and group focus on equity and ownership. That's why we made it one of the centerpieces of Fraser Nation. Right? Citizens of generational wealth. What is Fraser Nation? A commitment to demonstrated excellence, equity and investment, and entrepreneurial thinking. We didn't say entrepreneurship. We said entrepreneurial thinking. First things first, second things never. Entrepreneurial thinking, taking risk, taking responsibility, and taking ownership of our own lives. Once we begin to think entrepreneurially, that can perhaps morph into entrepreneurship, because that's what entrepreneurship is: taking risks, taking responsibility, and taking ownership of that which you are producing. So that is why we must have a group focus and a personal focus on equity and ownership. We don't own anything. We really don't. Not compared to the wealth that we have. And it's partly mindset. It's partly mindset. Again, we came over here on the Mayflower, and we own the fewest number of homes per capita of any cultural group in this country. You go to downtown Atlanta. I was just in Atlanta the other night. You go to downtown Atlanta and you look at all those fabulous, big, beautiful buildings, and we don't own anything down there,
Mm.
right? And we 70% of the customers, and we're all up in there, right? We don't own anything. And so that's a mindset. And that's what we have to do. So those are the 3 habits,
All right.
5 new mindsets, right?
Well,
That I think over time can change us.
well, you know, I'll tell you, Dr. Fraser, this has been extraordinary. Um, I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope you all will join me in giving Dr. Fraser a big round of applause and thanking him for joining us. I'm gonna, we're gonna cheer for Dr. Fraser. Please give him a digital round of applause. Cheer for this brother. Cheer for this brother because
that's pretty cool, man. That's pretty cool. I like that.
Thank you. It's a fun little thing I added to the podcast. Just kind of makes it fun. And
you make it fun.
well, I tell you, I think learning is the most fun thing you could ever do. Building is as much fun as learning, and loving one another is the greatest joy I think any of us can ever experience, because we know life is a journey of love. And in Dr. Fraser, we love you. And I hope you guys will join me in saying that and supporting this brother. And so, Dr. Fraser, let me ask you this: what's the best website for people to go to if they want to follow your work?
You can go on YouTube. I got a ton of stuff on YouTube. Just put my name in there. B, you can go to powernetworkingconference.com, powernetworkingconference.com, www.powernetworkingconference.com, and join us at the Power Networking Conference next year with you being the centerpiece. Is Damon John was the centerpiece this year. You're going to be the centerpiece next year at the Power Networking Conference. It's going to be July 8th through the 11th in Houston, Texas, right where your conference will be coming up this week. This coming Sunday, right? So those are 2. If you're interested in getting a Boiling Frog card, I will email it to you. Just email me at gfraser@frasernet.com. That's gfraser@frasernet.com. That's FRAS as in Sam, ER, gfraser@frasernet.com. If you'd like me to send you the 5 new mindsets and the 3 new habits on our Boiling Frog card. And finally, there's a special offer right now on the powernetworkingconference.com site for those of you that want to attend the conference next year. It's a deep discount. I'm not going to tell you what it is. You have to go there and find out. But it is courtesy of Reverend Dr. Boyce Watkins. I'm adding Reverend to it. You got it like that. And so I just want to leave you with one thought, just one thought, and it's just my personal opinion. I think there are 2 things that help success in life. One, the way you manage when you have nothing, and then the way you behave when you have everything. You've done both very well, Dr. Boyce Watkins, and we're proud of you, and we love you. And this podcast is, I think, one of the most important, powerful podcasts for our people on the internet. And I mean that, and I say that from the heart. And thousands of people connect with me because of you, quite frankly. And people perhaps that I, even with my pretty broad social media, have not reached. And so I want to thank you personally for that. And just keep doing this, man. This is extraordinarily important and valuable.
Well, thank you, Dr. Fraser. And I'll tell you guys, I'll tell you all why I love this brother right here. When I was coming up, I kept looking around at older brothers that were a few years ahead of me, and I kept seeing a bunch of punks. I saw a lot of emasculated Black men who didn't have any real power, had just kind of surrendered to white supremacy, and we know the factors that are against us. And every now and then I would just see a brother that I'd say, okay, I get where he's coming from, right? You're one of those people. somebody like, say, a Dr. Claude Anderson, Kenny Gamble, who runs,
Right.
Philadelphia, or Louis Farrakhan, and I say this without knowing anything about how you all, relate to one another. I know there's a long history and everything, but I will say that it means a lot, because what it does is it shapes the paradigm for me in terms of what I'm supposed to be for the younger men that are behind me. The struggles of the Black man in America are connected to the fact that many young men do not have older men that they can anchor themselves with, right?
Sure.
You can't anchor yourself with a punk. You can't build a tent with the tent pole is 2 feet off the ground. The Black man, in my opinion, is the tent pole for the Black community, and we have to be the strongest, and we have to be the tallest, we have to be the most capable, because I think that's what our women want from us, and we lost some of that, as you alluded to earlier, and I believe we will get that back, and as we get that back, we will see, to steal Trump's phrase, we will see Black America and Black people become great again. And I say that thinking about, ancient Egypt, Kush, Kemet, all the great things we've done in history. And we've had our dip, but I do believe over time, we're going to rise out of that and do some amazing things. So I didn't mean to give a long-winded response to that, but I appreciate everything. Thank you.
I want to direct folks to my social media on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Twitter. We're putting on a big trip to Egypt next year, the first week in March, with Dr. Anthony Browder, Quad David Whitaker, and myself, hosting an incredible 14-day trip with a 5-day cruise on the Nile to Abu Simbel as well. It'd be an awesome, awesome trip next March. Beautiful weather.
Sign up for that?
Right. No, you can sign up for that, man. I was just going to mention to you, man, we would love to have you on that trip. So with Anthony Browder, the baddest Black Egyptologist on the planet,
yes.
Dr. Quad David Whitaker, right, the utmost elder of our community, myself, and some bad brothers and sisters. So it's a small group. It's a study tour, so because Anthony Browder, he teaches. And, Anthony Browder is the only Black person in the history of Black people to have his own dig in the Valley of the Kings in Cairo, right? So this is going to be an awesome trip. And man, I don't know how you get the time off to do it. I'm taking the time off to do it because it's so important. So this is our 3rd trip there. We pack it out every year. But again, it's a small group. We only do 30 people. Keep it real tight, real intimate, and you get a first-class tour by one of the brilliant minds in that space.
Wow. Well, let me go talk to Alicia right now because I would love to see if I can make it on that. I think that would be amazing, man.
Well, amazing.
You guys heard it straight from Dr. Fraser. Somebody asked about the title of Dr. Fraser's book. It is the most popular book that he has out is Success Runs in Our Race. Everybody should have it on the shelf. Everybody should read it. Look this man up. Fraser, not Z. Fraser. Your children should know about him before they know about anybody else's heroes. The George Washingtons and stuff like that. They are not even secondary to him because they're slave owners. Come on now. Why would your kids know about Right. Seriously, like why would our kids know more about slaveholders than actual Black heroes who've liberated our people? Do me a favor before you guys go. Please hit the thumbs up button, share, and subscribe button. Please hit that thumbs up button right now. Also hit that notification bell so you'll be notified next time we go live. Quick reminders, very quick housekeeping. Don't forget, All Black National Convention happens this week in Houston. If you want to come out, go to allblacknationalconvention.com. Dr. Fraser will be there. You can meet him in person. Also, if you want to watch the live stream, you want to catch Dr. Fraser's keynote as well as all the other panels and everything else, plus actually all the panels and speeches of all the previous conventions, you can go to allblackeducation.com. It's allblackeducation.com. So even if you can't make it, you don't have to miss. We guarantee you're going to love it because in the Black Business School, which is the sponsor for the convention, if you don't love it, if you're not happy, you email us, we'll give you a refund. So there's no risk to you whatsoever. So allblackeducation.com or allblacknationalconvention.com. Thank you very much, Dr. Fraser.
Love you, man. I'll see you in a couple of days.
Yes, sir.
All right. Hey, everybody. All right now. Be good. All right.
Everybody. Bye-bye.